Morning. I've been watching some military related videos and thinking of the Madagascar thing. And I just watched Bingkov's video on Taiwan, and I'm really surprised by how weak their army ended up being. I was expecting it to be a lot stronger, like really, but yeah, I suppose if you have the opinion that you're basically the same boat, then perhaps military is not your thing. But I'm really surprised by the numbers. Most modern fighters have 16, most of their tanks are from the 70s. A modernized F-16 as the primary modern fighter. That's not good. It's really not good. And I'm surprised Taiwan hasn't built a carrier to keep like 300 miles to the east of their country to form an air base reserve that they can use to land their fighters during war and have a strong enough modern navy to keep it difficult for China to destroy so that they can, but it'll take them more effort in their Air Force destruction than it will for Taiwan to build it. But I don't know, a little surprised. So what was expecting something else. But as I was lowering the inflation and interest rate, I noticed that the currency exchange value into dollars is slowing its rise. So it'll probably be impossible to lower the interest rate much further. And I've been using the interest rate to calculate the voting age question, and I'm starting to get roughly the same results that I got from the last time. I don't believe this game's number when it said that 75% would support the voting age of 12. I'm like, I don't believe that. So I'm having to look at like what looks more realistic. And we're at 17 currently for voting age, which is a year older than the consent age, and every other age is the same. And almost all countries are at voting age of 18, and I believe it should be much lower. I believe we should be able to vote basically once we go to school. You ought to be able to vote on what the school does, class content, and so on and so forth. You should be able to vote on that. I was at a school where I was elected to be one of the youth members of the school board, so I know a little bit about democracy and children. I know a little bit about it. I'm not completely out of the loop. Basically, I think, or rather, I've noticed that there's an age where if you ask a human who they'll vote for, they'll near always say some relative, such as mother. But at some age, for most people, there are still, I think your word is patriarchy, but the word I used when I was studying this was nepotism, where you prefer your family as your high-rise rather than the best one to run the job. You think that its family is better than just the guy who's better at the job. That's nepotism. So there are still nepotist elements in adulthood, but for the most part, at some point, people start voting for somebody who's knowledgeable and not somebody who's related to them. And I've noticed that age to be somewhere between 10 and 5. And I wouldn't want voting for people whose average response is parent. They don't really communicate in a way that we intend them for. When the answer can be something like when I'm at school, the teacher, when I'm at work, the boss, when I'm at home, the elder of the house, whatever. When when there's a complexity in the response, then it starts to seem like they understand what voting means. It's picking the least worst candidate. It's as a 27-year-old politician, I can say that's roughly what voting is. It's picking the least worst candidate. If you drink of the cup of politics, then you will feel like it is smart to vote for dreams. But reality is often that you're picking the least worst option. That's most often what reality is. Sometimes voting for dreams works, but in general, I wouldn't recommend it. I've done this work long enough to notice that when you aim for your dream, you often get the kinds of side effects that you don't know about that will completely duck you up. But when you aim for somebody whose opinion is that they have a slight improvement, but they know these kinds of problems will show up with this improvement, and they make a conscious map of what they are proposing to change and what the change is, in their opinion, going to produce at certain intervals, then you have a roadmap. And that is usually not optimum, but you have the least of two evils. So in politics, I wouldn't vote for the optimum, I would vote for the least of two evils. And while you essentially vote for your parent, you don't fully comprehend that if it can be done internally, as in if it's your parent who does it, then you don't really need politics. Politics is for the stuff that can't be done inside the res privata when you go into the public sphere. When you confront other ideas and know the value and not the value of your idea. For example, getting the right to vote on like municipal elections when you change from or at like the last year of kindergarten might be something that can be proposed. It wouldn't pass under the current system, but it's not completely inconceivable. But like I said, aiming for paradise often ends in hell. So what you need is to aim for a system of changes that is far enough that you can do your thing and close enough that others don't feel like it is too radical a change in that it will produce the uncertainty. People are naturally afraid of chaos. So, do people start at 0% contraceptive or 100% contraceptive when they are born? That's a question where I have gotten some interesting debates. And can contraceptives be thought of being an automatic way? If you say your population has a 75% contraception use, does that mean the average person blocks the lowest 75% of the spouse offers? Can it be said to be that? How picky you are? Can that be said to be an aspect of contraception? So if we take a person who is normally healthy and has a sexual life, and you start increasing their contraceptive use broad base, do they get diseases when the things that have been communicating with them are put under greater pressure, or their partners are put under greater pressure? Do they then exhibit diseases? This is one of the various topics that I've been thinking about here. What to do about the contraceptive thing? There are many possible answers. Still think that because our Madagascar is at 75%, that we ought to raise it. I think. Still feel like that. It feels dangerous, but it feels appropriate to raise the current level of contraceptive use. It feels like it's something we ought to do, but that will experience trauma and pressure because of it. But that it is something we ought to do. I feel probably wrong, but just feel it. Kyllä se vaan mun mielestä on niin, että se kontraseptio kaikki pitää aloittaa sieltä korkealta. Pitää olettaa niin, että silloin kun se lapsi on niin kuin hoidettavan ikäinen, niin se on myös automaattisesti muiden suojassa taudeilta. Niin silloin pitää lähteä siitä olettamuksesta, että se, niin kuin se hoidettavan ikäinen lapsi, eli joku tyyliin vauva, niin on 100% contraception rateilla. Pitää olettaa. Mun mielestä. Silloin pitäisi lähteä siitä, että koulun koosta yhden henkilön keskiverto kaveriryhmän kokoon tai sitten sosiaalisten interaktioiden koosta kaverien määrään on contraception rateen verrattava luku. Mun mielestä. Eli jos sulla on vaikka 50 ihmisen sosiaalinen kuvio, josta sä oot 3 kavereita, niin sun contraception rate on jotain 90 mun mielestä. Jos sulla on semmoinen maailmankatsomus, jos kaikki on henkiä, mutta siellä on vain yksi, joka päättää, mitä sulle tehdään, ja se on Jumala, niin silloin sun contraception rate on melkein loputon. Niin 99 piste, melkein loputon määrä usein. Teoriassa mielikuvituksella pitäisi olla joku matemaattinen raja. Teoriassa. Kuinka moneen eri mahdolliseen mutaatioon kaikki noi universumin sisäpuolella olevat eri molekyylit voidaan laittaa esimerkiksi. Mitä kaikkea se pystyy tuottamaan, jos laitetaan pienin mahdollinen muutos ja suurin mahdollinen populaatio. Eli edelleenkin ollaan sitä mieltä, että siitä 17 tiputaan 16 siinä vaiheessa, kun se contraception rate on sopivan korkea ja sitten child mortality on sopivan matala. Siitä ihmisillä annetaan taas vähän lisää vapauksia. Jossain vaiheessa pitää se assosiaatio ja kulttivapaus tehdä, mutta kun ei halua kumpaakin, on vasta mieltä, että mä kyllä toistaan näin. Silloin siitä tulee taas se, että ne, jotka on valtion puolella, niin saa assosioida vapaasti, ja ne, jotka on yksityisen puolella, niin ei saa niin sitä tekemään. Siihen mä en suostu. Se, että se johtava ryhmä haluaa vapauksia, mutta se haluaa antaa niille vähemmistöille, niin sitten se voi kyllä puolustella missään muualla. Silloin se johtajan määrä niin duuni on se, että se katsoo, ettei kukaan enemmistöistä niin tuhoa sen vähemmistöä. Koska se haluaisi kuitenkin laajentua ja siihen se tarvitsee vähemmistöä. Most countries have their voting age at 18 and their age of consent lower than that, meaning that you can have sex with a minor, but the minor can't fuck you back, which is the real definition of perversity. They can't become politically active and attack your support group. In other words, they can't fuck you back. But you are entitled to impregnate them with your ideas. So yeah. Hats off to Austria, Argentina, and Brazil for having age of voting at 16. Hats off. Lowest in the world still. Titan boy, what do you get when you insect? Inject salt water into a testicle, tighten ball, because it's very gentle at that point, no longer wrinkly. I'm sure some alternative healthcare group will use that as a cure for something. We have this experimental erection healthcare work thing called Titan Ball. It lubricates your testicle. Titan Ball. What do you call hot wild piglet? Thermoboho. Oh, Thermoboho. Good God. Does somebody wanna buy Whistler from me? Wrapping paper for cigarettes. I have no money problem. What? I can make about $15 an hour working for Eve. If I just start making level 5 security missions and nothing more, then it's about $15 an hour. If you're unlucky, it might be as low as $5 an hour. If only I lived in country where PPP is smaller. And and they undid the American. What? Undid Hitler and his army of velociraptors. Idiocracy. He undid the Hitler.
I'm a celebrity. I can kill anyone I want.
When I was 20, my girlfriend and I chaperoned my sister's 5th grade field trip. I thought it was a dinosaur field trip, but it turned out to be a sex ed field trip. What's your best? This is not what I thought it was going to be story. English was my Korean roommate's 3rd language my freshman year of college. He thought he had registered for finger painting for the spring semester. I remember him leaving for class that morning bragging about how easy the semester was going to be because he was going to go do preschool level art. He came back visibly flustered. Turned out he had signed up for figure drawing, which focused on drawing the human body. There was naked dudes. Naked dudes. When I was 4, I was in the hospital because of my tonsils. My parents had bought me a stuffed toy from the hospital gift shop. One day, a nurse comes into my room and asks me, "Would you like to show the doctors in the operating room your bear?" Being pretty stoked about my new toy, I excitedly replied that I would. I remember being wheeled down the hall on a gurney, but I knew something was wrong when the doctors all had masks on and didn't give a crap about my bear. A nurse kind of forcefully puts a black mask over my mouth and nose. I'm freaking out, but I'll never forget what she says to me, smiling. "If you scream, it only works faster. Crap goes black right quick." Then I got to eat nothing but ice cream and jello for a day or two before going home. I had just gotten my lifeguarding license and my neighbor told me she had found me a job at a place that seemed to be described as YMCA-like. So I show up for my interview and there's girls doing homework in what looks like a dining room. I get brought into an office and start talking to the boss only to find out that it is in fact nothing like the YMCA. That is because it was a boarding house for pregnant teenagers run by the state, so they legally needed a lifeguard. Well, at least you knew that the girls there put out. I saw I Love You, Philip Morris on Netflix. I thought it was something along the lines of thank you for smoking since Philip Morris is one of the largest cigarette manufacturers. It's not. Thank You for Smoking is one of the first movies I ever saw where I was blown away by the writing and acting. So good. I bought it on Amazon recently for $3. Awesome. So my kid comes barging into our bedroom, crying. We ask what's wrong. I was trying to play with these kids, and they wouldn't play with me, and they called me the N-word. Well, that did it. This wasn't the first time the locals had yelled the N-word at his 6-year-old stepson. The last time was a few months ago when he was playing t-ball in the park with his mom. Back then I was still at school 1,000 miles away, but this time I would give those kids a piece of my mind. I threw on some shoes and we got in the car. As we drive up to the park, I see that it's empty except for some black girls sitting under the slides. Oh, son, these kids who called you the N-word, were they black? Yes. Sigh. I hung my head and turned the car around. You need to talk to your mom about this, I said, because I'm white. Frick that. I've got 2 daughters with a black woman, and I'm white. If anyone ever calls my daughters N, they're getting a piece of my mind. One of my friends at school invited a group of us to a haunted house in October. The first clue that something was weird was when we pulled up to the haunted house and said, "Isn't this your church?" Turns out the haunted house was actually something called a heck house, which is sort of like a haunted house with all these scary scenes, which were not too badly executed, really, culminating in a scene of heck, complete with demons and a thoroughly bad bus Satan. Where it got weird was that suddenly, our group got rescued from heck by angels, which were her church's deacons and choir robes. They took us to this scene of heaven with the gayest Jesus ever. There was harp music and the smell of old lady rose perfume. Then, we got escorted to a church office where we had to listen to a 45-minute presentation on Christianity, followed by people urging us to pray a prayer of repentance and join their religion. I was kind of peeved that we each paid $10 to be proselytized until the heaven scene. Though, it was a decent haunted house, and I guess in reality I can't imagine a more frightening ending. So maybe I'm not completely upset after all. But it was unexpectedly bizarre, for sure. When I was in 4th grade we had to do a project on the presidents. I started by going to whitehouse.com. The only president I found there was Bush. I am sure Clinton was there somewhere. I've never been in a wedding rehearsal that, in hushed asides between the pastor and the couple, glossed over what turned out to be the biggest part of the wedding. The born-again bride and groom used the opportunity to get me and another sister, trussed up as bridesmaids, to the front of the church, on an actual stage, to offer us their testimonials and ask us before their congregation of over 250, to accept Jesus and ask for forgiveness. That part of the wedding ceremony was about an hour. Unfucking believable. I would have taken that opportunity to ruin their wedding. I used to do improv comedy in Richmond, and one day the boss of the theater said they got a gig at one of the local parks and needed volunteers for face painting since they already had a team for the improv show. Being in college for art, I was shoehorned in without really volunteering, but I didn't mind. It was implied that this was just a family get-together and they wanted entertainment. So I paint my face up with like animals and stuff and my arms with biker tattoos, so when a kid asks me what I can paint I would roll up my sleeve and show them all the examples. When we get there the site is filled with men covered in tattoos and their kids running around. Unfazed I start taking requests and I notice all the kids are asking for prison tattoos like scorpions on their hands and skulls etc, and wham, it hits me. This was kind of a family reunion but for recent out of jail convicts to meet their kids in a public environment. I thought I was going to get shy when the biggest guy walked over to me. He asks me if I was the one that drew the snake on his daughter's arm and I said yes as I diverted my eyes, ready for the face caving blow. He winds up peeling up his sleeve showing his snake tattoo. Exact same color and everything to his daughter's. I wound up staying long after the fatter paint was gone and just chilled with the former convicts. They were really cool dudes, and I could tell they were super happy to see their kids again. Ramirez learned an important lesson about tolerance, and everything turned out better than expected.
That's my homeless experience.
Some free tickets he scored to an MLB game. I love baseball. I love beer. Sounds like a good time. I proceeded to pregame pretty hard and met my friend and some people he was with at the ballpark. I got really self-conscious during the game because nobody would talk to me or let me buy them a beer. And then my buddy told me this was an even put on by his AA group. I felt like an enormous shithead. Don't feel too bad, that's the sort of thing you should really tell people before they turn up to an event like baseball. It was my first Valentine's Day with my current girlfriend. We had only been dating roughly 4 months. Anyhow, I had no idea, so I looked up ideas in Seattle and found some weird show in Seattle that looked like it might be romantic. I saw a bunch of women saying they loved it, comparing it to something that they called Chippendales, which at the time I was ignorant of. Long story short, it ended up being a very weird burlesque show with entertainers who were very fit. They did gymnastics, dressed up as a unicorn who danced around to weird music, danced to a popular song on the radio while dressed as teddy bears. So very weird, but we loved it. My dad would buy Egg McMuffins on Sundays after church when I was a child. One Sunday morning, I told him I didn't want to go and refused to go with him. He caved and asked if I wanted to get breakfast from McDonald's. Of course I said yes. So we were in the car and I was excited that I get to skip church and eat a delicious McMuffin. But then I noticed we drove past by McDonald's. I asked what was going on and he said we're going to church. This whole time I thought we were just going to get breakfast, so I didn't change from my pajamas. But you should have said thou shalt not lie. I ate a chocolate last night. Turned out to be Earl Grey tea flavored chocolate. Totally was not what I thought it was going to be, but it was really freaking nice. High school. Career day sign up sheet. Cosmology. Frick, yes. Sign me up for that crap. 2 weeks later, I walk into the classroom and have to double check that I was really where I was supposed to be. Why? All girls. I'm the only guy. Why? Then I picture the sign up sheet in my head and realize my error. Cosmetology. I was about 10. My sisters were 8 and 16. We're on a family vacation on an island off the coast of Rhode Island. One cloudy, slightly drizzly day, we decide to go exploring. After a lot of walking down this long, secret, slightly treacherous path, we discover this beautiful beach we had somehow never encountered before, despite knowing the island pretty well. Next day we're all, hey dad, come with us to check out this awesome beach we found. Dad comes with us. The beach is full of naked people. Turns out it was a nudist beach, hence being difficult to get to. They just happened to not be there the day before because of the weather. Also, they were covered in mud. Not sure my dad believed us that the nudists weren't there the day before. It made for some awkward conversation. TL. DR. Accidentally went to a nude beach with my dad. Park. One time in middle school I got invited to a friend's for a sleepover party. I thought we were going to gossip and watch movies, etc. But oh no, as we're driving up to her house in the country, my mom and I see hundreds of tents on the grass outside with grown-ups and people of all ages. Turns out sleepover meant celebrating sucker with her entire family in church. I had no idea what any of it meant and didn't even know she was Jewish. So me and about 8 other 7th grade girls had one heck of a WTF is going on moment that night. It was a synagogue, not a church if she was Jewish. My friend invited me to a Christmas party. I was really excited. I was in high school and super shy. I never got invited to any party. Plus, she was my closest friend at the time. I get there and everyone is really upbeat. There's food and music and everyone is super happy. They all know each other except me and 2 other people. Then they break out guitars and start singing about Jesus. Turns out it wasn't a Christmas party. It was an attempt to convert me and these 2 other kids. They repeatedly asked us if we'd spoken in tongues yet and accepted Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. Wedding receptions. I have not been to one since I was young, and I always assumed they were just big parties with good food and all the ceremonial BS was dealt with during the ceremony. Little did I know about first dance, and toasts, and cake, and blah blah blah. I have never been so drunk and bored at the same time. 3 weddings this summer, all awful. I went to a wedding in Shanghai, China in May, and they gave away iPhones and other stuff. Great food, and it was all over in about 2 hours. I didn't win any prizes, though. Happened to meet this guy at a computer group meeting. A few days later, he contacted me about doing some work. I met him at a coffee shop, and he was very interested in having me come to a meeting. He said to mention his name. and they would let me in as a VIP. I show up at this hotel meeting room and large crowds of people are paying $20 a head to get in. I mentioned the guy's name, and sure enough, they let me in at no charge. The room is packed, every seat taken. We hear a list of the lineup of speakers, including the former Lieutenant Governor of the state. They drone on and on about this wonderful business, but never get to exactly what it is. Finally, they let the cat out of the bag and say the name of the company, Amway. I stand up and say, loud and clear, this is bulls, and walk out of the room. Never heard from that guy again. When I lived in Oklahoma, my buddy really wanted to buy some kind of car. I think it was called an Eagle, but it was a four-wheel drive station wagon. He wanted to know if I want to roll with him. So I figured, frick it, why not? Well, we start driving and then he talks about snacks and crap in the back. I am thinking, what the frick do we need snacks for? I had involuntarily went on a road trip from Oklahoma to Minnesota. This was a long time ago when I was in college as an Air Force cadet. I had requested to be sent to a Space and Missiles Air Force orientation training thing for the summer because we were required to do some sort of extra training, and this one seemed low-key and not too bad. It was essentially over-glorified space camp. I ended up floating on a dinghy off the coast of some East Coast state. I don't remember where because I fell asleep on the drive over, waiting for the Coast Guard to come pick me up via helicopter. TLDR. Tried to go to space camp, ended up getting picked up in the ocean by the Coast Guard. Also, I am writing this on my tablet, so I am sorry for any errors. A work buddy told me about a trip he was taking to Vegas and asked if I wanted to go since he had a free room and was driving up there. I thought it sounded fun and agreed. When I showed up to meet him, people that looked like family members were packing vehicles. Turned out I was the only non-family member of like 16 people. Kids. This was a family trip. He finally caught on to how weird it looked to his confused family and started giving him a cold shoulder in hopes his redneck family didn't assume we were fricking, which I am 100% sure they did. He even kept yelling at me to change each day because he thought non-black shirts and non-camo shorts look gay. Tells you a lot, right? Found out later he even told his family I invited myself and he felt bad for me because I don't have friends. Both far from true. I could have been mad about the whole thing, but I decided I'll play the weirdo for the weekend so my buddy could save face with his family. I consoled myself with booze, gambling and Percocets I got off his black sheep brother-in-law. When I was in university, this girl I was hopelessly in love with invited me over to her house for dinner. She was having a guy over for dinner and felt she should have a chaperone for her date. That may be the highest level of friendzone I have ever witnessed. When I smoked weed for the first time, smoked a really awesome amount. Like, it was perfect. I felt freaking awesome. My friends drove me to other friend's house and they too were smoking. They wanted to experience my first time smoking with them too. So they got out a huge freaking bomb. I think the neck was 20-something inches. They filled it all up for me. Then I just let it rip. I was so high. Pizza was awesome. But tasting the pizza again as it was coming out of my mouth was not awesome. I was throwing up for the rest of the night due to motion sickness. I couldn't hear anything. It felt like my ear was against helicopter blades and my sight was like frames changing every 2 seconds. I was having conversations with people and would literally forget what I was saying after a few seconds. Cool thing was, the part I really didn't expect, walking around my college campus. Everything looked like Main Street at Disneyland. It was incredible. Years ago, a couple that my then girlfriend and I were friends with, but not super close with, invited us over for dinner. Sounds great, we say. When we arrived, their place was pretty full of people we'd never met before. There were some buffet-style eats and, oddly, lots of folding chairs. We grabbed some grub. Then they asked everybody to sit down. We were then subjected to an hour of Amway marketing and recruitment bulls. Then a bunch of pressure from this couple as they were newly married and starting their pyramid scheme business. Not a word of warning. I once did a walk for charity. I was told it was for breast cancer. I love breasts. It turned out it was for babies. I hate babies. I feel the same way. When I was about 10, my mother had the great idea for me to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show for my birthday. She had never seen the movie and had no idea what she had just gotten me into. Everyone there was nearly in tears by the end. Traveled to a friend's house a few counties away for a Halloween party I simply could not miss. Went with her to a haunted house. Okay, so far so good. It was one of those constructed in a parking lot jobs. Giant sign I should have picked up on one, and it was huge. Long airy hallways, past 4-5 rooms, and scary as frick. My friend and I are walking through, and I'm still about an hour away from realizing we have walked into a church, as this is what happens to those who live the life of sin houses. We end up walking with some kids, because they're spending too much time screaming at every little twitch. No big deal, for I am big strong man and my friend here can kick 15 kinds of butt. Stick with us kids, we'll get you through this. Then all heck, yes, capitalized, breaks loose. Guy dressed as a demon from Huck itself. I'm guessing the fourth circle here. Truly scary. Grabbed the 14-year-old girl who had until now been surgically attached to my arm. She loses her crap. This is not part of the program. I'm 18. She's cute, and I'm not ashamed to say I had plenty of naughty thoughts going through my head. But now there's a demon involved, dragging my girl off to God knows where. I lost it. One of the kids had dressed up in his Little League costume, complete with Little League bat. I grabbed the bat and quoted from Pulp Fiction. And you will know my name is the Lord, when I'll lay my vengeance upon thee, and started kicking the ever-loving kidnapper. Here's where things get hard to follow believe. I got tackled by people, and held down until the police arrived. I was going to jail for attempted murder until the head organizer showed up. Turns out the demon was the girl's mother's ex-boyfriend. He apparently believed he could get the woman back by delivering her wayward daughter. He wasn't part of or attached to, in any way, the haunted house, or the church. He was a hero, except for the part where I had put a man in the hospital for at least 2 weeks. That made me a badass. The police decided not to arrest me. I was given the suggestion that I might want to leave town. Now. One time I volunteered to teach elementary school kids origami and other art-related things that my old high school teacher goaded me into doing. I agreed to do a class at the high school, and I assumed it was elementary school children again. The day of the class, the room starts filling with high school-age kids. To my horror, everything went fine, and everyone enjoyed themselves, but I was caught off guard for a while. One of my best buddy asked me to come and play flag football with him. His family and their relatives because his team. I was excited because flag football is always fun and I was ready to get some exercise. I arrived at the park they were playing at and there were a lot of people. I found my buddy and asked him what's going on. He forgot to mention that his stepfamily were almost hardcore Christians and he said that it was a small flag football tournament with his stepfamily's church and other churches. I am agnostic and respect all religions. So I decided to play anyways, and since it was co-ed, I was going to take everything easy. As we played, I realized I did not need to since during huddles, the QB did not make any plays. He just prayed with everyone else not to get injured and thanked God for protecting everyone. It was like that for every huddle. I did not want to just leave, so I stayed for the whole 5 hours and played 4 games, all in which each huddle was a group prayer. My girlfriend at the time invited me on a family trip to visit her younger brother at a camp she also used to go to. Sounds like a fun time. Great way to get to the family a bit better. So off we go for a couple hours, make it there, and it turns out to be some Bible camp. I had forgotten she and her family were evangelicals, and her father was a pastor, and I guess she had forgotten I was atheist. We got out of the car and she saw I was already uncomfortable being there and she asked me to have an open mind. I go along with it because it was a day with the GF and we got to sneak away at least once for some one-on-one time. There was a nice potluck lunch, light socializing, and then the crazy sermon happened. Jesus this, save your soul that. You get the picture. I'm fine with others belonging to a religion, but I didn't appreciate being ambushed like that. Contrary to the art story, it didn't work out. We only lasted about a month after the trip. Upside though, I can confirm, pastors' daughters are freaks. Not me, but a friend's dad. He had moved here from Iran in the mid-80s and was looking for a good job while he was finishing school. As a pretty athletic man, He saw an ad in the newspaper for an aerobics instructor position. Between the language barrier and cultural barrier, he didn't understand what he was getting into. Flash forward to the interview process, and this 5'1" Persian man wearing soccer gear walks into a studio filled with women in brightly colored leggings and leotards. While he was taken aback, he was not deterred. He stuck out an hour of running through what were, more or less, dance routines. While he didn't get the job, the instructor running the interview did stop him afterwards to tell him she admired his guts for not leaving once he realized what he was in for. Friday evening before school started for my 7-year-old daughter, I was invited by her summer camp to watch my daughter perform a song that the campgoers had been practicing to perform in front of all the parents. The performance was set to be at 9 a.m. on a Sunday. I was given the address and told to arrive early for the kids to prepare and practice. When I arrive, I notice it's a church. When my spidey sense starts tickling that maybe, just maybe, one performance is not what I am here for. As I walk in, I am handed a flyer for all the festivities. 3 hours. It ended up being an evangelical Spanish service with people yelling and crappy rock music. Even a small child rapping about Jesus. Not what I signed up for. Looking around, I could see the same look I probably had on my face from about 50% of the other people around, most of which walked out after the kids' performance was over. I stayed so I didn't get hounded by the churchies. Most awkward 3 hours ever. During my first week at university, my dorm proudly announced it would be hosting a toga party. Now, this was a very religious school. It was a dry campus, no drinking, and dancing was forbidden. No joke. So, I found myself thinking this was a bit odd. I had heard about infamous toga parties from friends that attended other schools, but I figured we would just have a PG party. I was pretty stoked at the very least. Make a spiffy costume and have fun. I had heard other dorms were doing different events, and ours sounded the coolest. The evening comes. My new friends and I are decked out in toga goodness, and even made some Greek-looking metal jewelry with wire and beads and things. We are all told to meet up on the hill next to the door, and I'm all happy about my outfit and hair and
This is
feel
gonna
quite
be a
pretty.
Christian
And then
thing.
they tell us to sit down. And then they tell us about the silent vigil we are about to make across campus. Wait, what? Yes, that's right. What had been described as a fun, get to know each other event is actually going to be a long walk across campus, in our togas, right past all the other dorms. On the walk, we are to meditate on our love of Jesus. As far as I can tell, no student expected this. So, we made our trek, and we got to see everyone else actually having fun. The dorm next to ours was playing movies using a projector, and everyone had popcorn and candy. We walk and walk, and when we get to the far end of campus, we make a huge circle. There were about 60 of us, and then pray and sing. I was not amused. My friends were also a bit peeved. We ended up getting in and out burgers afterwards, though, so it wasn't a total waste of a day. Around a decade ago,
Anytime
my
you
father
get in and
bought
out
tickets for
or
a pair of us for one
Sonic
of the
or
UK Indoor Athletics Championships at the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham. So we were slightly bemused when we walked in, rather than seeing a track
Whataburger.
by the likes
It's a
of
day
Harry
now
Campbell,
wasted.
Dwayne Chambers, Ewan Thomas et al. Instead, the arena was playing host to loads of school children involved in what appeared to be competitive hopscotch and other playground-like activities. Turns out he'd actually purchased tickets for the UK Sports Hall Athletics Championships. Somehow we managed to avoid the temptation to stay and watch, so we swiftly turned on our heel and enjoyed the delights of Birmingham and went to the proper event a couple of times during the following years. I went to visit my girlfriend who was attending a different university than mine at time. This was around Christmas time and she is Jewish. Foreshadowing B. She says one of her friends is having a Christmas party on campus and her friends from school were really looking forward to meeting me. Sounds good. So we go, and we're walking off campus into a residential neighborhood. I was thinking it was kind of weird, but okay, this is probably where her friend lives. I thought she was in college though. Walk into the house and it's a bunch of Jewish people all sitting around tables with who was clearly a rabbi walking around speaking people. Turns out it was a Shabbos service, not a college party. I was irritated at first, but she made it up to me later with some inebriation and copulation. Buddy invited me to a dinner and dancing for his ROTC thing on campus. He told me to dress up and that we'd cut a rug. Well, I get all dolled up thinking it would be an hour affair. It took 5. He had taken me to the end of the year Marine Ball. There was no dancing after it. I just wanted to go home. The whole night was awkward as his senior officer was seated with us and was making fun of me for going out with him. I informed him we weren't going out. The air was so heavy with embarrassment. He spent the next couple hours convincing me to go out with the guy. Throughout the night there were salutes, standings, chanting. I had no idea what the frick to do. I actually saluted like a SAP. Oh god, why did I do that? And just mimicked my date. My best part, even while the ceremony was going on, I still didn't realize I was at the end of the year celebration. I just kept thinking it will definitely end now. TLDR. Agreed to accompany my friend and ended up hostage on a 5-hour date. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe.
Some people are worse with relationships than me, but it's kind of rare. Where do I spell? Interesting.
Girls, what's a creepy thing guys frequently do which we're unaware of? Blocking you by extending their arm and putting their hand in the wall. Quick tip. D-bag. If you have to physically block my escape, it's already over. Unsolicited shoulder massages. Violating personal space. If you take a step toward me, and I step back, that is not an invitation to slowly chase me around the room. That is an indication that you are close enough. Where's my hug? Once at a family party, this elderly man insisted on dancing with me almost the whole night. I didn't mind this so much because I was there only with my mum and didn't know that many people. He then continued to try to read my body language and tell me how he knows that there are things that I'm trying to hide and how I have a secret temperament. Please don't try to pretend to read a girl's behavior, especially if she's about a third of your age. This is just creepy. Not sure if many guys do this. Went out on a first date with a guy I met online. Introduced myself and he looked me over slowly, head to toe, while sloppily licking his lips. Never have I felt so desperately in need of a shower. Edit. To follow up on the post. We had chatted very cordially on the phone several times before we agreed to meet at a coffee shop for the face-to-face. After he gave me the sloppy move, I stayed for 15 minutes. My attempt at being polite. I hate telling PPL to FK off. Need to change that. Anyway, made my excuses and was gone. He continued to call, asking to come over or for me to go to his place just for cuddles. Made me think he was a rappy sob. Blocked his number and that was it. I'm a guy. Sorry to disappoint. Whenever I'm strolling at night and end up walking behind a girl I feel terrible. I can tell I'm making them nervous so I either talk on the phone or slow the duck down. It doesn't help that I am 6'1" black male that weighs 200 pounds. Edit. The vast majority of you have restored my faith in humanity. I understand that we live in an unfortunate society where a woman might feel afraid walking alone. It's up to us to be decent people and try our best to make everyone feel safe. Also, thank you for the gold. You look so innocent. This isn't a compliment. I'm 26. This is creepy. Making a point of talking about how respectful, safe feminists you are. Do it once, and okay. Maybe you're just shy or nervous. Do it twice or more, and it gets progressively creepier. Believe me, if you're really a quality guy, I'll be able to tell without being told. Claim to know when a woman is menstruating by smell alone. Edit. No, I have never been attacked by bears. I know it's not that common. But there was one guy I knew who had a habit of putting his arm over girls' shoulders that barely know him and without their consent. He thought it made look confident and cool. We thought he was a desperate creep. A lot of guys have followed me in public or slowed down to try and talk to me from their cars. In what world is this not creepy? I know most guys won't do this, but so many have at this point. I just wonder if they know how creepy they're being. More relevance to this thread. Being too persistent. If a girl keeps brushing you off or giving it responses and you don't tone it down, walk away, you start to seem a bit creepy. Although some people are poor conversationists, so I guess it's hard to tell. For me, it's jumping right into super flirting. Like, an example conversation would be, me. So, you like Armor 3? Soviet Womble has got some great vids on that. I love Womble. So, when are you coming over for vids and cuddles? Dot. Come on, man. At a club. Pushing into our dance. I was out with my friend and we were dancing together. Fully engaged with just each other and chatting as we danced. A guy pushed into the gap between us and tried dancing with just me. I stopped dancing and stepped away. My friend reached out and pulled me back to her and began dancing with me again, pulling me in closer to close the circle to make it clear we weren't looking for company. He did it again. My friend straight up pulled me away and we walked out of the room. Later that night, the guy saw us and came over and started screaming and shouting that we were itches and whores and rude for ignoring him. What the duck? From my wife. Being friendly to a guy and they automatically believe you want to duck them. So they ramp up the flirtiness and physical contact. Scaring. I can see you even if I'm not looking at you. If I make eye contact with you, either smile and introduce yourself, or look away. Don't continue to stare thinking it's slick. It's just weird. The bigger the age gap, the weirder it is. I had one guy stare for so long that he actually drooled. It's not flattering, I promise. Edit. Trust me, when you're in a club and a guy follows your every move, silently staring for ages, you can tell the difference between them accidentally spacing out and leering at you like a piece of meat. Girl here. Pretend to be a girl on Reddit. It's really off-putting when guys come on too strongly. Like, I get if you want sex. So do I. But I also want to be able to carry a decent conversation with the person I sleep with that doesn't involve an unsolicited D-pic. I think a general rule with D-pics is that if we don't ask for one, don't send it. And a lot of guys just send it as an opening. It's pretty gross when it's not asked for. Edging closer to you during conversation until they're practically on you. No, it's not going to get you laid, and no, you're not smooth. As a black female, it is absolutely infuriating when guys hit on you by stating that they've never been with a black girl before, and start with all that chocolate caramel it. That doesn't make me feel special. It makes me feel like a fetish you want to cross off your list. Just be normal, please. Browses to make sure I'm not guilty of the top comments. Catcalling. In all shapes and forms. My least favorite is the snake hissing. What are you trying to accomplish here? Except to intentionally make a female feel uncomfortable. Joking about dragging my drinks, slipping alcohol into my non-alcoholic beverages, if I'm not drinking that night, and wondering if I'd notice how I would act while drunk or drugged up. Yes, this really happened. Multiple times. Different guys. If only I was younger, said by elderly males. You should smile more. You're so pretty when you smile. Got a random Facebook message from a guy that went to my old college. I don't know who he is though, saying something along those lines. I really don't like it when guys hit on me at work. To be more specific, I'm in customer service and I have to be nice and I can't really leave the situation as I'm at work. Nothing makes me feel more trapped than a dude that spends an hour asking me about some product in a thinly veiled attempt at talking to me. I'm a male, but I run a bar with a lot of female bartenders. One of the creepiest things I see consistently that drives me insane are the guys who will try and stay after we're closed to flirt with the bartender as she's closing. They end up just kind of trying to follow the bartender around while she's just trying to ignore them and get a job done. No bartender likes this. Stop doing it.
Couldn't agree more. How many of these things have you guys got? I'm at a 3 out of the total. If you get 0 out of the total, you get a 100% hit. Then you're definitely a weirdo. Do you
I
if you
can't
get
totally
100
guess women's
then?
bra sizes. You're a 34C, right? Dude, stop. No, you can't. Please leave me alone.
And even if you can,
Seducing a
shut the
woman
hell
by
up.
catcalling them from a car isn't creepy and is very effective, right? Asking for a friend. Asking me to smile. Stop. I'll smile if I ducking feel like smiling. God damn it. Edit. Apparently not a thing that women are exclusively subjected to. So people of the world, stop asking strangers to smile. It's weird and annoying. From wife. Asking about tattoos. How many? Locations? Not super frequent, but saying it like don't worry, I didn't put anything in it, when they bring you a drink or wow. You're really brave for walking home alone, when you run into them on the street at like 10 p.m. on a weekday. Walking on a well-lit main road. Like I really wasn't thinking about the possibility of you sexually assaulting me before. But I sure as duck am now. Thanks. Stare. Like straight up gawking. You know women have vision too. Then, just because I'm not looking right at you down made you being slick. Getting mad at women for. Why didn't she just say no? Why did she lead me on? In the same breath as they harass women for not giving guys a chance. And generally just pursuing women who aren't interested or keep brushing you off. You know that tip about reading back a phone number incorrectly to see if it's real or they gave you a fake number? Yeah. If a woman gives you a fake number, accept it and walk away. If she did that, it's because she does not feel safe just saying no. And she has reason to expect if she bluntly said no. I'm not interested for you directly. You would get violent with her. Women try to be as polite and gentle in their rejections as possible because of their genuine fear of violent retaliation if they don't. That they get accused of leading men on. Or, they are being genuine friends to guys they genuinely like. But those guys cannot process a male and female friendship. So they assume it's about sex and romance. When someone is sitting next to you and you are minding your own business and they say something like you don't talk much, do you? It's because I don't want to talk to strangers. Coming on way too strong. There's a lot of guys out there that go head first, if you know what I mean. Smile beautiful, I'm at the grocery store, sorry I don't have a fake plastered on smile at all times. WTF, you're not saving me from a bad mood. I'll smile when I ducking want to. Creepy F. Telling me how to act is obviously the best way to pick up women. Okay, scrolled down pretty far, and I have to say, as a man, I find it pretty shocking that anyone would not know everything I read here is creepy as hell. Come on, man. What the actual? Where's my smile, cheer up, love it may never happen, or any other variation thereof. Women are not obligated to smile and act polite and cheerful for you all the time. Duck off. Full stop. Insist that they just want to be friends after hitting on you and getting rejected. If your idea of being friends only means going out for a meal alone, and talking to me only when no one else is around. No, you don't ducking want to be friends. I'm not stupid. Had that exact situation play out with a co-worker recently. Dude would not leave me alone for months. Calling me a female instead of woman or my name. Some guys are too damn old to be hitting on 18-25-year-old girls. When I was 17, a 28-year-old 5 feet 3 inches scrawny white guy with a 76ers hat and a cigarette in his ear actually tried to have a threesome with me and my friend.
Nice.
Who was 16. He kept bragging about how girls lined up to date him and we were lucky he was even interested in us. The worst part about it is this guy still messages me and my younger sister on Facebook still trying to have threesomes. My sister just turned 16 a month and a half ago. Like, not only is that it's sick. As a 26-year-old woman who looks 16, I think it's creepy when an older stranger hits on me while I'm not wearing makeup. You might be a sweet guy or you might be a confused pedophile. Hard to say. Also, please don't offer me candy. Dear God, do not ask, are you in school? Middle school, elementary school. Don't put me in the van. I'm a grown-ass woman. Any man I've worked with over the age of 40 thinks that the max distance we should have during a conversation is much less than half a foot. Nope. You need to be about an arm's length away. Just barely in the handshake zone. You may be a great dude, but not everyone is. And if you're gonna try and hug or kiss or otherwise overstep professional boundaries, I need enough space to shut you down. Cause once you've done something inappropriate, it forces my hand. I can A, call HR, or B, get used to increasingly inappropriate physical contact. Because even when it's non-sexual, it still always escalates.
The thing with abuse is that if you allow it once, if you allow somebody to cross over your boundaries, they'll do it again and they'll do it harder. And eventually if they are even remotely good at it, which most of these abusers actually are, they'll convince you that you like the abuse. So your chance of defending against abuse is much greater if you are quick to react to abuse than if you're slow to react to abuse. But your chances of improving your status in this society are not very good if you are quick to react to abuse, because societal improvement is dependent very much on both abusing and being abused. So while you can easier defend against abuse by putting up barriers early, you can rest fairly certain that standing up to abuse will make you more financially poor, no matter what you do. That is roughly what I can guarantee you.
Force me to kiss you on the cheek, or more, like. Some dudes in the total stranger category already pulled that one on me, and wouldn't stop pestering me as long as I hadn't done it. The fact that, one time, the guy wouldn't let me go and tried to force me into his car didn't help at all. It's not just for men, but for people in general. It's better to avoid touching people you don't know. And no is a perfectly valid answer to any request. Edit. Tired of repeating it everywhere. I'm French. There's a difference between la bise, which is a customary way to say hello to people you're meeting, friends, colleagues, family, and a forced kiss. The I'm literally holding you and won't let go as long as you don't give me what I want. Duck that type of behavior. Not sure if this is common, but I take the same train to and from work every day. After a night out, I was heading home and a man stopped me saying, "Oh, you're working late. You don't normally get on this train." I thought I missed you. Still going to the place I live. It could have been harmless, but it was past 10 p.m. and it felt creepy and dark. I switched carriages. It felt weird, like he was analyzing my journey like a stalker. Hi, do you have a boyfriend? Yes. Hi, do you actually love him? Are you sure he's not cheating on you? Well, do you want a friend? Unless you want me to bring my boyfriend along. There is no way I'm just going to be friends with you. Especially when you approach me trying to hit on me. And yes, I do actually love him. Hey, smile. A good-looking loser. If it does make a girl giggle or smile, it's more likely out of being uncomfortable than anything. I've been talking and laughing with a group of my friends and still being told to smile by a guy I don't know who happens to be there. So it's not an issue of me actually scowling or being sulky in case someone suggests that. If you want me to smile at you, just be nice and pleasant. I've had men glare at me from afar and then tell me I look miserable. I've had guys looking genuinely concerned if I'm okay. I say I'm fine, thanks, and they bristle as if I told them to duck off. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's demeaning or sexist, but it really irritates me and I feel self-conscious about my face for the rest of the day. Sometimes if a girl looks quite intense or serious while listening to a guy talk, I often do. It's because they are deeply in the conversation. Gazing at your face would just happen to look like that. On the other hand, I guess the opposite of that is just as it. At my parents' wedding, my dad's brother said to my mom, "You'd look better without that big stupid grin on your face." Her ducking wedding day. Really? Can't win either way. Men who approach 2 or more women with the pickup line, "Why are you sitting here all by yourselves?" Yeah, you really must come save us from this man-less reality we are living in. A shat. Stare at my tits instead of my eyes when speaking to me. Go in for a greeting kiss on the mouth instead of cheek when you are not in a relationship.
I can guarantee you that every single guy on the planet has, not for every woman, but for some women, will be staring at their chest when they talk. And this is because the person isn't registered as human yet. I don't mean that they don't have the human rights or the person actively thinks of them as inferior, but the men thinks of them as not yet born. And they think of them in terms of the heart. They think they are talking to their imagination, literally. They think they are seeing a hallucination and they aren't aware of the fact that the hallucination can look back. One day, we will have paintings complain that we look at the painting instead of where the spirit of the painting is in the room. It will be similar for both genders that this looking at the chest thing is. There are men who just go, ah, boobs, but for most of them, far as I understand, it's thinking the person isn't real, that you're in a dream and you go like,
Men do this, but some do it. Even an uncle of mine always tries to lay one on straight on the lips. Blue word dark. I've learned to swerve and awkwardly completely avoid all contact when he tries it. Send unsolicited D-pics. Tell you to smile in an elevator or something. Duck off complete stranger. Call us fat, ugly, or slut, etc. Or send death threats when we say we aren't interested in you. Trying to start a conversation with a D-pic, or by saying all the sexual stuff you do to me. It's creepy and 100% ineffective. I've had weird guys hit on me in an aggressive way and treat me like a fetish as a Japanese girl. There is a stereotype that Japanese women are submissive and you can treat us like garbage. And look, I'm not the one. I'll body slam you into the cement. Fart face. Trying to convince us how not a rapist you are. Like on a first date, oh, you have nothing to be scared of. I'm not a rapist. I'm not gonna hurt you. I swear. Don't be afraid of me. etc. Like, dude, who are you trying to convince? Yourself. Looming. That thing where person A is sitting and person B chooses to stay standing. Or when person A is relaxed and person B stands military straight and way too close. You're physically bigger. It's just factual. But then you add looming into it and it gets intimidating. Edit. If you're clicking reply just to argue about good versus bad posture, you've missed the point. The posture thing was one example of a context-sensitive behavior. Looming over people is weird and uncomfortable no matter how much you like standing over people. And ultimately that's the problem. I've noticed that men tend to use their bigger size to loom over people or direct them around. And there's plenty of men below arguing that it looks better or is more attractive or is their preference, so I'm not imagining it. You're naturally using your size to your benefit.
I can guarantee you, men, that women don't like you. There is most likely a group of women, or to be accurate, a woman, an individual who like. It's because they've had a good chance to compare you to the rest of the shit in the field,
Novel by John Green turned into a movie.
and you
Something
are
I'm about to
the
react
shit.
to, like your request. You know, huge thank you to Grubhub for sponsoring this.
You will not get another species en masse to like you unless you're really good.
I'm not depressed.
Okay, no one should make decisions for you to say whether or not you are depressed or aren't depressed, especially if you're really stating that you're not depressed. We use objective tools like the PHQ-9 is a scale where a patient answers questions about their current state of mental health, and from there we can make a diagnosis.
I may switch you to Zoloft.
Uh.
And twice a day instead of once.
This is just not the doctor's visit surrounding mental health or even depressive symptoms should go. It should be more of a conversation with just the patient and the doctor. The mom should leave the room. It's about getting an intimate knowledge of the patient's situation, how they feel, what's going on in their lives. Are they having any negative or distorted thoughts that are really destroying their current feelings?
Have you been going to that support group I suggested? It's a way for you to connect with people who are
See, depression is an interesting topic. If you have a life that is unfulfilling and that causes you to be sad, but it is unfulfilling because you don't have energy to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And you also sleep 12 hours a day, but it is making you sad, but it is unclear that why you don't feel a connection to it. The better choice might, for example, be amphetamines than antidepressants. But that is why it's a complex topic. You can't go, this person is sad, therefore they have to be made happy. You have to go, this person is sad, can we find what in their life is unfulfilling and make that fulfilling, and if that removes the sadness. If you are sad, regardless of if your life is fulfilling or unfulfilling or whatever, then you might have depression. But if it's like you're sad, but we don't know why, and we don't want to figure it out and try to improve those things, will just make you happy chemically, then it's the kind of stuff that puts me off doctors.
on the same journey.
Support groups are a very positive thing. A lot of times when you're feeling down, depressed, having some sort of distorted thoughts, what ends up happening is you feel alone. And by going to a support group and seeing that other people are going through something similar that you're going through, perhaps sharing their stories of success or even stories of difficulties, that connection, that sort of hive mentality that gets triggered actually helps release some positive neurotransmitters, release some endorphins, allow you to feel closer to other people, thereby decreasing the severity of the depressive symptoms.
I'm Hazel. Thyroid originally, but now with quite the impressive satellite colony in my lungs.
So what she's saying is she initially started having thyroid cancer, which then metastasized, being spread to her lungs, thereby necessitating the oxygen that she has in the nasal cannula there. The most common types of thyroid cancers are actually very benign. The 5-year survival rate is quite